guys, it's Lily. Thank you so much for tuning into my channel again this week. I really appreciate it. After we propagated all those Hoyas last week, I have not looked at them at all. I haven't done anything to them at all, but I thought it'd be appropriate for us to cover how to care for newly cutted propagations. This week's video is kind of like a part 2, so you know what to do when you propagate a Hoya. So if you remember, last week we propagated 3 different Hoyas that I had. One of them was sickly looking, which was my Imperialis. One of them was my Ep16 2021, which it was about this long and just had a dead runner. And then my other one was my Hoya Tangamus, and the reason I cut that one is just because it grows really slow and I want a fuller pot of it. So those were the 3 that we propagated last week, and so I have them here in a prop bin. There are actually 2 prop bins with a paper binder clip on either side. I know this is weird and unconventional, but the reason I do this sometimes is because in the shelf that I have my grow lights for propagations, I only have so much room, so I can place one big bin like this one, and then I can place one of these little tiny bins next to it. But usually the small bin in the bottom is not tall enough for my propagation, so I just grab another one of the same bin and I put 2 binder clips on either side, and it holds the humidity in place pretty good, slightly less than the regular bin, but regardless it works great for me and it fits perfectly on my shelf, one right next to the other. So I have not looked at this prop box at all since we propagated them last week, so I thought we could kind of just see how they're doing since we made the cuttings last week. And there's two props in here that were not from last week. I just kind of shoved them in there, but yeah, so I thought we could go over these together. So right off the bat, well, alright, stop moving. So right off the bat, I'm noticing a few yellow leaves, and as expected, it's from the Imperialis that we knew wasn't doing so well. But let's see. Okay. Yep. So here's a Hoya cutting of my Hoya Imperialis. You can see it already has a yellow leaf. The other leaf is about pretty much 90%, or that's a overestimation. It's about 70% yellow. And then if I take off this clip, what I usually do is if I see a Hoya cutting like this that has 2 yellowing leaves and then the stem doesn't necessarily look like it's already awake or doesn't show signs of already growing, I usually just get rid of this because the chances of this surviving is like astronomical, and I don't want to waste my time. So I'm just going to assume this is not going to propagate, and yeah, it doesn't look promising. So if you see the end of the node, it looks squishy and wrinkly. See? And if you squeeze it, yeah, this is not going to make it, and that's kind of gross. I wish I hadn't touched it. Alright. Alright, so this one I get rid of. Clear out that space in the bin. You don't need that kind of negativity right now. No reason to keep looking at it when you already know it failed. So here's the other one that does not look like it's going to make it. And let's see, let's take it out. Ugh, that's gross. Yep, definitely didn't make it. 2 things. Imperialis is not the easiest Hoya to propagate. So I already knew that going into it because I've propagated Imperialis before. But also it was already looking sickly. Like, we already knew there was something going on with the Hoya. The top of it did not look healthy enough. That's the whole reason why I cut it. So going into it, I knew I was going to lose some of the propagations. But the good news is that it doesn't look like I lost all of them. So here's one that looks healthy. Why do I say it looks healthy? Well, other than the fact that I accidentally cut it there, the whole leaf is green, the stem looks healthy, it looks like just the top of it died off since we cut it, which is absolutely normal, but it shows no sign of rotting, it doesn't show any yellowing, none of that, so this is good. Okay, so I kept looking through this, and it looks like I have one more Imperialis cutting that looks really good. Here's another one. So, well, actually, I'm not sure about this last one. So, I'm starting to see some yellowing there, and then some yellowing on the top of the stem. This leaf looks healthy, and from what I can see of the stem, it still looks good. So I'm about 50-50 when it comes to this one on whether it's going to make it or not. So I guess overall, out of 5, 2 of them look like they're not going to make it. One of them is like, eh. And then the other 2 look healthy, so I'm confident that those 2 are going to root. Next, we had the 2021 cuttings. Here's 1, 2. They both still look healthy. Here's another one. And here's the last one. So all 4 of the 2021 cuttings look healthy and happy. And honestly, that's to be expected because the mother plant was happy and healthy. There was nothing wrong with the cuttings. So I'm happy that those are probably going to end up rooting. If you notice, they're in the 2 cups, like I always mention, and it looks like the cups have not dried out yet. They're still pretty moist. So right now, I'm not going to water these propagations. They still look pretty moist inside. I usually wait until they're fully dry before I water them again. I don't let them stay dry for too long if I can help it, but I do let them dry out. It's really easy for a stem that has no roots to be overwatered, and by overwatered I mean the plant itself doesn't have any means of absorbing that water, so the stem rots away because you're leaving it in like just this puddle of water and it has no way of absorbing it. The only way it can absorb it is by rotting away. So I don't overwater my propagations. I'm very careful to water lightly and then just pay attention to when it's drying out, then I water lightly again. I don't like super soak them, and I always make sure, since they're double cupped, that when I do water, I don't allow a lot of water to collect in the bottom. Actually, if I notice that there's water collecting in the bottom, like a lot, that gets all the way to like the top of the cup and it's not just a little reserve water in the bottom, I will dump it out because I don't want it to rot away. There's a very fine line between keeping the humidity and the moisture up and just rotting it away. So I always water lightly, and I always make sure that a cutting is fully dry before I water it again. Because the most common mistake I think people make when they propagate Hoyas is that they end up overwatering the prop, thinking it's some sort of aeroid that just needs that constant moisture, and then the cutting ends up rotting away. So the next one that we propagated was my Hoya tangamus, and they both look healthy. I mean, here. I don't see any signs of decline at all. If anything, the little leaf that we weren't sure was going to make it looks even bigger than it was last week. I see exactly 0 signs of roots on any of them, and honestly that's to be expected. I don't ever expect to see roots on a fresh cutting for like, I want to say the first 2 weeks. So the first 2 weeks I only water when I usually, the first 2 weeks I only water 1 time, which is when I cut the propagation and put it in the prop box. It usually doesn't take me until like week 2 for them to dry out and need more water. So right now, we have a lot of birds this morning. So right now, I'm just going to put these propagations back in the box. I'm going to close it up and I'm going to put it right back where it was under my grow light. I'm not going to water it. I'm not going to fertilize anything. I'm just going to put it right back in the prop box and put it away because it does not need any form of care. So I am overall happy. Only 2, these 2, only 2 of the propagations didn't make it, which pretty good odds if you ask me. So that's it. Okay, so now that we checked on the propagations that I did last week and kind of covered the first 2 weeks of care with the cutting, I pulled out one of my prop bins that have stuff on there that have been propagating for quite a while. Alright, that should be good. There's so much stuff in here. I mean, it's kind of obnoxious. Let me see if I can show you some without causing damage. Alright, that's about all I'm willing to do. So, the first thing that I take note of when I open a prop box is, do they look dry or do they look still wet? Every single one of these looks pretty wet. So I'm not going to water these at all. And if I had to guesstimate how old these cuttings are, or how long it's been since I watered this prop in, I would say at least a week and a half. So that gives you an idea of how long it takes for propagations to dry out and require more water. Never water a propagation like on a specified schedule. Always just listen to the cutting, listen to what it's telling you. If it looks moist, then don't water. If it looks dry, then water. It's that simple. Don't set yourself up for failure by trying to stick to a specific schedule. So now I kind of want to talk about how I determine that a propagation is rooted well enough to be able to be replanted. I'm usually overcautious when it comes to my propagations because it really breaks my heart to lose them. So I always wait until they're like severely rooted, almost root bound, before I upsize it to one of my terracotta pots. So there's a couple things in here. One of them being this aroid. So this is a little cutting of an El Choco Red. So I know we've been talking about Hoyas and really focusing on Hoyas, but I wanted to show you what a fully rooted propagation looks like as it relates to aroids. So this has already been upsized once, and I know that it has a lot of roots in the center. And so now I was hoping to see some roots around the new cup. I upsized this about 2 weeks ago, and it looks like it has continued to root really well. And it even has a bunch of aerial roots. You can see them here. So I could safely repot this philodendron anytime now to like its next size, but I don't, honestly I haven't figured out where I'm gonna put it or what I'm gonna do with it, so I'm gonna put it right back in here. Alright, so that's an aroid. The next thing I have in here that I want to show you, because I know it's extra well rooted, is this Meredithii. I actually am rooting this Meredithii for my friend Ashley, who lost her Meredithii like a couple months ago. So I've had this cutting, I think I made this cutting about 2 to 3 months ago. And so since I cut it, these were the original 2 leaves. This leaf has grown since it got rooted. This is growing, and then this is growing, and then it has all those aerial roots. So this is a cutting that is pretty, like you can see the roots coming out of the bottom. So it's already pretty safe, a safe bet to repot this cutting. This is pretty much my standard when it comes to repotting a freshly cut propagation. I don't ever repot them unless they look at least this rooted. So I should be seeing my friend Ashley in a couple of weeks, so then she can take her cutting. I'm not going to repot it for her because I want her to have the opportunity to repot it into her own mixture. So I'm just going to continue to care for it. It won't die just because it has that much roots in here. Hoyas like to be root bound, so nothing's going to happen to it if you don't upsize it right this second. Hoyas are pretty used to being root bound for some reason. It's like peace lilies. They don't like to have a lot of soil around their roots. Alright, so this is one of my favorite Hoyas right now. I got this Hoya from Rick. I want to say it was like a month and a half, maybe 2 months ago. No, it was about a month and a half. It's Hoya MA-07. which I believe is a verticillata cross, which you can definitely see the dark margins and you can see the ribbing on the leaves. I just really like it. I don't know why I love this Hoya so much. I really like the shape of the leaves. It's super textured. I love the margins, and it has just been doing great for me since I got it. I actually already propagated this Hoya. It was a small, it had 2 extra nodes, and I cut them off for my friend Emmanuel, and so but actually since I cut it, the node up here woke up and it's already given me 2 new leaves, and you can see the little knob in the middle where the new growth is going to come from. So I'm really happy with this one, and I am pleasantly surprised that it's doing pretty well. It's already starting to root. I thought it was going to take longer because I did already cut it, even though I started it as a cutting from Rick, so I had no roots when I cut it. And so these are all fresh roots. So 2 things to look out for when you are checking if the roots on your Hoya are healthy or they're rotting, or I don't know, they're too dry. So for example, if you look at the roots on this Hoya, they look kind of green and fuzzy. That means they're healthy. Green, yellowy, not yellow, more like a limey yellow, fuzzy roots, those are healthy Hoya roots. The thing to look out for unhealthy roots is like dark brown roots that aren't fuzzy. That means it's rotted away. Or like pale yellow, like dry looking roots. That means they dried too much and they're dead. So right now I'm not going to do anything to this Hoya. It looks moist. It looks like it's starting to root. I'm not comfortable repotting it away. If I was to trade or sell this propagation, this is ready for that, but it's not ready for its terracotta pot. So I have a whole process when it comes to acclimating my Hoyas and putting them out here in the porch, because it is Florida. It gets really hot. Yes, it's very humid and they get perfect amount of sun out here, but it also gets really, really hot. And so because I put them in terracotta, I do that on purpose. But I need to make sure that the Hoya has enough roots to be able to survive in terracotta and to be able to survive like 2 days with no, or like fully dry. So I don't feel comfortable enough to repot this. Not quite. If I was comfortable repotting it, what I generally do is I grab a little pot, and I'm pretty sure I have, yeah, I think episode 4 is like acclimating Hoya propagations, and that's essentially the step that I take when I believe a Hoya is rooted well enough to be repotted. So once a Hoya is well enough to be repotted, I will put it in I don't mess with the roots, I take it out of here, and then I put it into a little terracotta pot. I add some more soil, and then I put it right back in a prop bin for a minimum of 2 weeks. The reason that I do that is I want the Hoya to reacclimate. So you've been growing it in here, right? And now you gave it a bigger pot. That is going to affect the health of the Hoya. If you're not careful, it could go into shock. So when I repot into a small terracotta pot, I put it right back in a prop bin. I water it, and then I wait at least 2 weeks before I take it out. I kind of want the Hoya to start growing roots again into the new soil that I've just given it before I bring it out here, just because I'm being extra cautious. After I've put that much work into growing a Hoya, I really don't want to lose it for carelessness. So here's the one, MA-07, and here is the cutting that I made for my friend Emmanuel. So mummy, son. So let's see. So these were the 2 original leaves that the cutting had when I cut it, and this has grown since I cut it. So there's already a node on there that is awake, is actively growing, and I'm really happy about that. You can see all these healthy green aerial roots. The reason you get a lot of aerial roots is because you're maintaining the humidity and the moisture in the prop bin up pretty high. So the Hoya is able to absorb water and moisture through those aerial roots because it's everywhere in the prop bin. Normally the Hoyas out here don't have a lot of aerial roots like that because most of the moisture is in the bottom where the pot is, whereas in the prop bin it's everywhere in the bin, so it can absorb moisture not just through the roots that are in the pot. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check if there's actually roots in the pot yet, and I can see, yep, I can see at least 2 healthy roots down there. I think it's here and then down here. They look green and fuzzy, so that's a sign that the Hoya is already rooting. Yay! Okay, I'm excited. So this propagation, it doesn't have a lot of roots. It has less roots than the mother plant. I would not be trading away or selling this Hoya right now with the amount of roots it has. But by the time I see my friend in, I think it's like in 2 weeks, this should be ready for me to give it to him. And so I'm really excited, and I know he's looking forward to it. Look how cute. Ah! I know, they're absolutely adorable. Alright, so, okay. Sorry, there's so much in here. I have to be extra careful when I put things back because I don't want to break something. So, one cutting that I was a little nervous about was this Hoya New Guinea Ghost. Just because it has so much silver, it might be harder for it to root. So I just want to see if there's any roots, and yet look, it has one little root on the side, so I'm really excited. I think this is doing well. Alright, so at this point I showed you how to propagate a Hoya. I showed you how to care for a cutting, and if you go back to episode 4, I'm pretty sure it's episode 4, but regardless I'll link it in the comments. If you go back to episode 4, then that's when I talk about when a Hoya is ready enough to be repotted into a bigger pot and to be taken outside of the propagation box. I'm going to post a link to my Amazon storefront below, which is where I have like my prop bins that I use, my grow lights, and then the shelving that I have inside for my Hoya propagations, so that you can have all the resources or all the supplies that I use to root Hoyas in. And then now I wanted to take an opportunity to show you my Multiflora opened another bloom. So the second umbel is almost done completely opening. But unfortunately, the blooms I showed you last week are already yellowing and falling. But, ta-da! So you can see that these are new and these are old by the color of the flowers. These look like a limey green, and then these are starting to yellow, and also if you touch them, like they start to fall. I like the yellow ones, so I don't ever try to just flick them off. I kind of enjoy seeing them dying on the plant. I know, but it's kind of morbid, but whatever, it looks pretty. So it looks healthy. I'm really happy with my Multiflora, and hopefully it keeps blooming for me. But the other thing that I wanted to show you is this. So I feel like a lot of times all you see on the internet is like healthy, happy Hoyas. And the reality is, oh, come on. See, the fishing line is nice, but also you get a lot of casualty when you try to take out a Hoya. Okay, see, I broke a happy, healthy leaf trying to take out this Hoya for you. Well, one of the things we never show is when a plant looks like crap. For some reason, my Hoya macrophylla bibua, which I guess now is a latifolia, decided that it doesn't want to exist anymore, or at least part of it. So I just noticed this morning. I specifically didn't take it out because I wanted to show you it's okay to have ugly looking Hoyas. Like, they're not all going to be perfect and beautiful and you did nothing wrong. Some of them just don't have a will to live. So these two leaves yellowed and obviously fell. And then I'm trying to determine if the plant is dying or just that node died off. I don't know. So two things, both of these growth points are coming from the same cutting. So it looks like just half of this, so this growth point that never really grew, is dying, but the rest of it, like the stem as I follow it, looks healthy. And it has multiple new growth points. It's actively growing here. It's actively growing here. It has like nodes that are awake all along the main stem, so I am not concerned with this, and I'm not gonna freak out. A few things I notice as I look at it is all the burn spots on the leaf. That's normal. The sun is shifting, and so this Hoya is reacting to that. So honestly, I'm not concerned, and it's okay to have ugly looking Hoyas. Like, they're not all gonna be perfect and beautiful, and that's okay. One thing I wanted to show you, which is completely unrelated to everything we've been talking about, is my new orchid that I got for my birthday. Oh, actually, I have 2 birthday orchids to show you. One second. Okay, so here's one of my birthday orchids. I got this one from Gerald for my birthday. I actually got it like the week before my birthday, but whatever. It's my birthday orchid. It's really beautiful. It's paper white, and then the lips in the middle have a little bit of green, like yellow green in the middle, and it just stands out and looks beautiful. Like the contrast between the white and the green is just absolutely gorgeous. And it smells incredible. It smells like citrusy, like very light. I don't know, it just smells incredible. I know it's just a white orchid, but it's a beautiful white orchid, so I'm really excited. And then I got this one. So here's one. Here's the other. I got this one from Rick for my birthday. And this one is it's called, oh crap, alright, Catlleya Taiwan RTH Kinmen Taiwushan. Alright, so this is the tag. Regardless, I'll post the name of it. It has a slight fragrance. It's not overpowering, but it's there. It's like sweet and like rosy. I don't know, I'm terrible at describing fragrances. But it's absolutely beautiful. And as I mentioned before, my favorite thing about orchids is just the high contrast between the lip and then the outer petals. So I'm really excited about this one because it's like an orangey yellow and then like a maroon purple in the middle. So I'm just really happy with this orchid, and I'm really excited to grow it. So yeah, these are my 2 birthday orchids. Anyways, I hope you liked this week's video. Remember to tune in. Go back and watch episode 15 if you want to learn how to propagate them. Episode 16 is about how to care for the propagations. And then if you go back to episode 4, it's all about acclimating Hoya propagations into their forever pots. So thank you for watching this week. I hope you found it helpful, and I'll see you back next week. Bye.